All right, so what I thought I would do is start off with a definition of Advent for you, and then give you some practical pointers about what to do during this season of Advent. And I think that Lyndon alluded to this at our last gathering. He gave us a definition of Advent. Remember when he talked about, those of you that were here, we took a look at the liturgical calendars. Our last gathering, we talked about Christ the King being the last day or the last Sunday of the liturgical calendar. And, you know, the ordinary time is, what color? What color is the vestment? Green. And then we go into this period of time, if you look at the calendar, it's purple. And he pointed out the shirts that the guys are wearing. Our shirts. So, the word Advent means coming. And it's associated with the coming of Christ. And we most associate this with what holiday?
Christmas.
Christmas. Okay? But it's also meant to be, and especially if you pay attention to the liturgy, the gospel readings, all throughout this period. In fact, it started like this week. If you read the Gospels this week, they're all about the end of times. And it's like the fire and brimstone stuff. I see Charles nodding his head. So
Revelations.
Yeah. Revelation, end of times. But even in the Gospels readings, Jesus is talking about when the end is coming. And so, when you hear that, you think, well, what in the world does the end of time have to do with Christmas? You know, because we're caught up in the idea of, you know, Christmas and baby Jesus and the first coming. But this Advent season is also a reminder of the second coming of Christ. So, like Lent, it's not an accident. The colors of Advent are similar to the colors of Lent, because this isn't just a time that we're supposed to give gifts. Which there's a lot of good in that, but it's also a period of time where we're supposed to dig down, dig in, and get refocused. You know, the church knew what it was doing when it had this calendar. You know, we go through our ordinary time and we start getting into a rut. Even if we have a daily spiritual game plan. And I'm giving you a preview. I'm going to give that talk again in January for the Knights of the Columbus. In their first open meeting, I'm going to give the talk on developing a spiritual game plan for daily prayer and other things that you can incorporate. But maybe you're already doing that. Maybe you have your daily prayer life and you feel like you're getting into a rut. This is a time of the season where we're supposed to kind of get recharged and get refocused, to shift our attitude. So there's some things that we can do. And like Lent, we're called to do 3 specific things. Pray, engage in penance or mortification. It's like fasting is one thing that we can do. And it doesn't mean that we have to. You can, if you're healthy enough to do it, is take one day and just fast. You know, or it can mean just giving up something too. It may be something as simple as giving up the sugar that you put in your coffee. And I mean that seriously. When you're offering that up, even in the little things, have great value. And then finally, in almsgiving. I'm going to talk more about that when we talk about Bees Kids. So we have to shift our attitude to get refocused on what it is that we're supposed to be all about. And we can do little things in our practical, everyday lives, okay? So, I know a lot of guys, if Lyndon were here, I'd give him a hard time about this because I know he likes to listen to the ticket quite a bit. He's a P1, okay? And instead of spending that extra time listening to talk radio or sports radio or whatever, maybe switch the dial over to some Christmas music to keep you in the spirit. You know, that's one thing I love about my wife, Stacy, is that she loves Christmas music, you know, and I'm kind of traditionalist. I'm not going to listen to any Christmas music until Thanksgiving Day, Okay, Thanksgiving, that's the marker. I'm not going to start listening, putting up. Well, you've seen how it is in the stores, It's not even Thanksgiving. Halloween now. It keeps getting earlier and earlier and earlier. And now they even have year-round Christmas stores.
I'm shocked that you even said Thanksgiving.
Say again?
I said, I'm shocked that you even started at Thanksgiving. Really? Yeah, right.
So maybe one of the little changes that we can start immediately is just start listening to some Christmas music. And if you don't like the Christmas music, one of the radio stations, I think it's KVIL locally, it plays nothing but nonstop Christmas music during the Christmas season. And it could be other little things. One of the things that I like to do, and my students pick up on it too, is that I change the normal ringtone on my phone to the Little Drummer Boy, which is my favorite Christmas song. And don't let me forget, I want to share a brief little story about why that's my favorite Christmas song. Because I had a student the other day ask me, he texted me on Thanksgiving Day and said, Gonzalez, have you changed your ringtone to Little Drummer Boy? But they pick up on this stuff. It's just crazy.
Bless you.
There's some other things that we can do, and I don't want to steal any thunder from Michael, but we can invite a fallen Catholic back to Mass, somebody who hadn't been to Mass in a long time. And even before you do that, we're going to have, in a couple of weeks, we're going to have a reconciliation night. Invite a family member who hasn't been to reconciliation in a long time. I remember about 10 years ago, my mother had not been to confession since she and my father had been divorced. She was carrying a lot of pain and anger. And Stacy and I went and picked her up. And she stood in that line, and just the tears that flowed. She was freed. It was a wonderful blessing. Okay, so you never know. It just may be that they need somebody to invite them, to ask them, to show them, I love you so much that I want to help you get back. I want to help share the sacraments with you. You could be God's instrument to do that. God may be calling you right now at this very moment to ask that person, come with me. And on that same note, and we're going to talk about this more when we get to our next gathering because it's going to be closer to Christmas. But let us not judge. Let's not stand up all high and mighty. And well, wait, we go to Mass every Sunday, and I try to go to Mass in the middle of the week, and I'm a holy man. And what are these people that just come on Christmas and Easter and take up my pew? I embrace them, okay? And don't judge them, because there's something in their hearts that lets them know that there's something special about Christmas and Easter. So there's hope. Hope is alive. And we need to be Christ to them. Even if they show up late, and even if they don't know the new Mass, give up your card, give up your spot, and introduce yourself. So as I said at the very beginning, this Advent season is it's not just about Christmas. It's about the second coming of Christ. And if you pay attention to the gospel readings, there's one running theme, and that running theme is, you know not the day or the hour of my return. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. We're all going to die. Shocker, I know. Spoiler alert. Some of us sooner than later. And it's not about age. I've shared this story with you before, that I had one of my students who was working as a hostess at a downtown restaurant. She had taken the same route every day to get home, and she was driving underneath Woodall Rogers. And an 18-wheeler jackknifed and fell off the overpass and crushed her car and died instantly. Ashley didn't know she was going to die that day. Nobody would ever expect an 18, 19-year-old kid to die. 3 years ago, the parents of one of my best friends, in fact, the man who introduced me to Stacy, his parents. It was about 4 years ago to this week. It was the week after Thanksgiving. And they were driving over to their other son's house, just a couple of blocks from their house, to go look at Christmas lights that they had put up. And as they were driving home, they were literally a block from their house. They got T-boned by a drunk driver, and both of them instantly died. I think it was kind of a gift that they both got taken together. I think that's kind of cool. But they were just out looking at Christmas lights. So to borrow a term from the ticket, we got to get right with Paul. Okay, we got to get right with God. We got to use this time to get refocused in our lives so that we can be the model for our family and friends. Because we don't know the day or the hour, and we don't want to have that regret of the woulda, coulda, shoulda. You have some control over what you can do in your spiritual life. You have no control over your friends and family. All you can do is pray for them and be the model for them. You can't. If you have children, you have figured this out a long time ago. You can't make anybody do anything. So and have any former Boy Scouts in here? What's the motto of the Boy Scouts? Be prepared. That's what we're called to be. Be prepared. Because we're not called to be afraid of death. I don't know about y'all, but this time of the year is, I get very reflective on these readings.